Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, part of the Kings of Horror Network. This is ML Miller. This time around I'm going to be talking about Scare Package. It was newly released on Shudder. Scare Package can best be described as a spattering of in-joke humor for those who love the horror genre. It was made by up-and-comers in the genre who have seen all the films we have, they love them, and they want to have fun with the tropes in imaginative and gory ways. Scare Package is an anthology of sorts, with the connected tissue being set at a retro video store. You know the kind of store. It thrived in the 80s, somehow survived through the 90s and aughts when all of the other stores collapsed, and now it barely gets by and is seen as a niche store for a select few customers. We have maybe one or two of those places in Chicago, and I imagine other bigger cities have something similar as well. But for the most part, the video store is a relic, and a film centering on such a place makes it a rather niche subject in its own right. That said, if you're a lover of 80s horror and the video stores that would shovel that stuff into our innocent brain pans with no fucks given attitude, then Scare Package is going to be a must-see for you. I'm going to be checking out each of the stories in this anthology, so strap in. This is going to be a lengthy review. Scare Package begins with Emily Hagen's Cold Open, a self-referential meta-commentary on the first 5 minutes of a horror film, where we get a snippet of the horror and the characters are quickly introduced with hardly any personality or depth, only to be quickly offed by the killer, monster, or threat, or what have you. When a bit part character named Mike, played by John Michael Simpson, refuses to simply be a background player anymore, goes off script, and tries to interfere with the main story, things start going very bad. Cold Open is the kind of in-joke humor I was talking about. If this isn't your 1001th horror film, you might not get the jokes, as Hagens has fun with well-worn tropes here. Seeing Mike, the eternal background player, have an inner battle with his duty to play his part versus his desire to matter in the world is a meatier character than one usually sees in these types of short stories. But Simpson pulls it off, and in very little time. And Hagens creates a hilarious story that makes you want to root for this underdog to do well. Considering this is the cold open for Scare Package itself, Cold Open is a meta-fun treat that will have those in the know about horror tropes rolling in a fantastic way to prep the viewer for the mayhem to come. It's at this point where we're introduced to Chad, played by Jeremy King, of Rad Chad's Horror Emporium, the aforementioned connective tissue between all of the short stories for Scare Package. Chad is king shit of this turd mountain of a store, where he has to deal with annoying customers like Sam, played by Byron Brown, whose life goal is to one day work at the store. When Chad hires a newbie horrorphile, Han, played by Han Tran, Chad and Sam both try to indoctrinate him in their own ways with a series of grueling tasks to prove that he can make it in the video store biz. This usually means directing him to videos that end up being the stories in this anthology. This segment is derivative of Clerks. These connecting segments move quick and tightly through one-liners, quips, put-downs, and sight gags, making one viewing to absorb all of the laughs impossible. While usually the wraparound is the weakest part of these anthologies, a strong sense of comedy and a plethora of retro classical video in-jokes make this one stand out as one of the best ways to sew the anthology together. The bits also lead into the last segment, which I'll get into in due time. Scare Package peaks early with one of my favorite installments of the bunch, entitled One Time in the Woods. It's a short that mixes body horror, camping horror, slashers, and a ton of other subgenres to make a gleefully gory barrage of madness and mayhem. Everything starts out pretty calmly until someone steps in some goo. The random comments reacting to the craziness going on make this one a solid gold short. I don't want to ruin too much, but this one really goes over the top with effects and keeps the ball rolling at a frantic pace from beginning to end. The final beats of this segment make for some of the grossest and funniest parts of the film. I love the rapid-fire Bloodfest segment. It's by Chris McEnroy, and he's the twisted mind behind the popular festival short, We Summoned a Demon. And if you haven't had the pleasure of seeing that short, you should really seek it out. Mr. is up next from Starry Eyes Noah Segan, who directs and stars in this segment that riffs a lot off of Fight Club. It's cleverly written, and there are some really fun swipes at modern masculinity, just as Fight Club does. But the issues they talk about in this segment are extremely first world, and delivered with a rollicking, un-PC fervor. It all makes for a fun social commentary, making light of some of the issues men complain about today, trying to fit into a more progressive world. There are some unexpected turns that end up paying off pretty well, and there's an appearance by Greener Grass's Jocelyn de Boer, all of which elevates this one to something devious and utterly endearing. Girls' Night Out of Body by Courtney Andujar and Hilary Andujar is a pretty straightforward moralistic tale about taking something that isn't yours and immediately paying for that crime. This one moves rather quickly and boppy. The gals featured are likable, and it was fun listening to their banter as the horror looms in the background. If you're a fan of the Slumber Party Massacre flicks and films like that, then you're going to like this one a lot. There's cursed suckers, creepers, and all kinds of body horror at play in this one. It's not one of my faves of the bunch, but it's got a slow-mo pillow fight set to cool music, so there's still a lot to like about it. Being a huge slasher fan, I found The Night He Came Back Again, Part 4, The Final Kill, one of the better ones of the bunch. The film manages to be meta and self-referential, like many of the other installments, but the film takes many of the tropes to the extreme nth degree. You know that moment when the killer is killed and there's no way he's going to come back until he does? Well, this one is about a killer whose victims are savvy to that fact and go to extreme lengths to make sure that there is no coming back. There's a whole lot of blood sprayed in faces in all of Scare Package, but this one does it over and over and over and over again. It makes for a gory good time. Again, if you're a fan of this genre, the slasher genre, you're going to love what filmmaker Anthony Cousins offers up here. The final moments of this one are completely insane. So Much to Do by Baron Vaughn couldn't be more topical at the moment, as it taps into that anxiety people feel when they have a full queue on their watch list, and the pressure of having a show spoiled online or by friends before you're able to watch it. Somewhere along the way, there's a battle to the death between Fran, the gal who hates spoilers, played by Tony Trucks, which is a cool name by the way, and an assailant who wants to spoil the show's series finale for her. This one is Carpenter-esque, right down to the awesome retro synth music, the foggy atmosphere, and the extremely long and hilariously drawn-out fight scene that seems very reminiscent of that long fight scene in They Live. Trucks delivers a really physically demanding performance, and she proves herself to be a true badass against her assailant. This one is much more stylistic than the rest, but fits in nicely for fans of Carpenter's best years in cinema. Finally, everything comes together in one messy, gory, and action-packed scare package with Aaron B. Kuntz's Horror Hypothesis. Kuntz directed the criminally underseen Camera Obscura and again delivers an awesome finale to the film. He's the one that also did the wraparound segments, which led right into this final story, and starred many of the characters from those wraparound segments, set in the video store. The horror equation is finally determined by a lab full of scientists, and a group of horror movie cliches are put together in order to defeat an incoming threat, another slasher of course. With the help of Chad's knowledge of old bad cinema, and a little more help from a special guest star, who I won't spoil, our pack of young tropes try to make it to the end of the movie before being murderized by the man monster. While some of this territory we've seen in Cabin in the Woods, and in earlier installments in this anthology as well, Kuntz makes every joke work, and of course covers everything with a thick coat of blood and guts. Horror Hypothesis really plays like the culmination of what all of the other installments were working towards, and definitely sticks the landing. Like all anthologies, some of the installments are better than others. But overall, I think each of the short stories delivers solid laughs, top-notch and gross effects, and a deep love and respect for horror that you don't often see in this cynical age. If you know and love your horror genre, you have no business missing Scare Package. That's it for today's ML Miller Frights. If you dug this video, click the button below. Share this with your pals across social media. Don't forget to check ML Miller Writes for written reviews and some of my countdowns. And please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications to be alerted as to when future videos drop. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that reality.